Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I am going to be spending some time with Felicia Cravens, and she's with the Free Radical Network and also the founder of the Houston Tea Party Society. How are you, Felicia?
Good. I'm telling you, it's certainly been a roller coaster the past few weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. Politics has gone crazy, and it usually is. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing going out there on the political front in your experience.
Oh, the fun thing this week is, of course, the president talking about you don't defeat ISIS or, ideologies with guns. You defeat them with better ideas, which is so beautifully mockable. Twitter did a great number on it. A lot of people got some really good digs in on that one. But I think the question that I had from listening to the president, is what in the world could he mean by better ideas? Because when you look at what the American experience is and what defines America, he's not endorsed capitalism. He's run from free markets, from American exceptionalism, from self-protection, from self-determination, from the rule of law, transparency, borders. What is he saying is a better idea? Where would he possibly get one that he's rejected all the American ideas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think he believes in American exceptionalism. I believe he believes in American exploitation. I think he really does reflect what Dinesh D'Souza said about him in both of his movies. It's funny you should say this. I've recently had conversations with people where I've concluded that we've had many post-American presidents, in my opinion, presidents who no longer really reflect Americans' values, no longer believe in limited government and free enterprise. But I actually think he is the first truly anti-American president. And that's a really harsh thing to say about your chief executive of your country. But I think his experience proves that to be true.
When you're talking fundamentally transforming a nation, you have to discover what it is that you're fundamentally transforming to, and that's necessarily, in part, a rejection of what you were.
Right.
And that's a difficult position to be in. What the left has done for decades now is attempt to frame America as the perpetual bad guy because the nation was founded as a more perfect union, not perfectible, but always striving for that, then it leaves the left these wide gaps in which to point out everything that's imperfect and claim that they need to perfect it. And it's impossible to do, but it leaves you with this malcontent thing that America's never going to be good enough, never going to live up to the standards. The point is that we're always trying, but the left doesn't see that. It's more about what they can do to agitate to change things further.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. And what's scary is that it seems like Americans have become very comfortable with this. It seems like not that many years ago, I knew virtually no one that was on government support. I know all kinds of people who are self-proclaimed Tea Parties who have been on unemployment for a couple of years. And you sit there and you look at that, and it's because these jobs that are being offered them are beneath them. And I'm like, really? Work is beneath you? I don't understand that. Even people who I think would have our values. And there was a time when people were on any government, even unemployment, which, we sort of pay into, but there's certainly a distortion around that, even that truth. But there was this apology about it. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm sorry. I can't wait to get off of it. That doesn't seem to exist anymore. There seems to be an entitlement culture that's pervasive. And now, when I look at what's happening on TV, Hillary Clinton's biggest event had less than 1,000 people, and Bernie Sanders, a self-proclaimed socialist, biggest event, had 10,000 people in it.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, there's something happening in our country, and it's not good.
Well, this is why culture matters. This is why values matter, and the type of things that we talk about when we talk about policy and graphs and charts and statistics, they're dry to people. And it's why I want to focus so much on telling the stories behind the policies, the ideas, the values that we have. It's why, say, when you're talking about unemployment or you're talking about, say, welfare, what you really need to start with is how the system really de-incentivizes people to get off of it. It's created to keep people there. And it's one thing to say that. It's another entirely to demonstrate that. When we look at the charts, I believe it was out of Cato not too long ago, a couple of years ago, about the welfare cliff, the amount of money that a person would have to make in a job in order to replace all kind of benefits from the government, state, federal, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a smart economic decision for a poor person to stay on assistance in the short term. And there is only the short term for a lot of people. And so the job training and transitioning that you would expect to come from a system that's designed to get people off of it eventually, it's not there. The system is designed to punish these people. You make a certain amount, and then your benefits start getting cut. And that's why looking at welfare and talking about people being leeches doesn't really address the idea that the system is doing this. The system is perpetuating this. The culture around it is simply responding to incentives from the government, and that's what needs to change. We need to convince people the government is exploiting the poor, is using them to build these large bureaucracies, and keeping them in poverty so that they can maintain their budgets, their large employment, people in the public sector, that sort of thing. If you start reframing the issue that way instead of look at all these lazy people who don't work, you begin to touch people and they begin to ask questions that they're not thinking about when you're just talking about lazy poor people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you entirely. It's incredible what's happening, and obviously conservatives need to frame the debate. I wrote an article that got published this week in Huffington Post, my regular column over there, about the dramatic rise in Mr. Trump, Donald Trump's dramatic uprising. And I'm telling you, I really believe that Donald Trump is riding on a backlash when it comes to political correctness. I think the American people are tired of politicians with their flowery language, their measured words, and they're looking for some candor. And he gives them candor.
He does, but he's really playing to a particular portion of the base on the conservative side right now. In general, I don't know that this sort of thing is going to be as successful simply because the left is really good at the opportunity to take someone's words, spin them a different way, make them look bad. He is sort of the Aiken of the 2016 field, and that's kind of scary because the conversation becomes not about the issues that Trump is actually talking about, not about the substantive disagreements that we can have over immigration and things like that, but the conversation becomes about Trump. And that's perilous to us.
You understand it would be impossible for him to do anything that not be about him.
Exactly, and this is why it's very dangerous to treat him as a serious person, even though there's really no way to keep him out of debates or whatever. But how the other candidates react to this and how the conservative base, the people that are going to vote in the primaries react, is going to be hugely important because some of the ideas should be addressed, and he's tapping into the frustration that those things are not being addressed, but the manner in which he says it is very costly to conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think, though, that I do think American people are tired of the PC culture that we live in. I do. And I think they find the PC culture to be every bit as hateful as what the PC culture tries to condemn.
Well, it's interesting you say that because there was an interview not too long ago, a couple of years ago, with R.J. Moeller. He had done with a professor who was in kind of the older end of the millennials, who said that one of the greatest values of millennials in general is authenticity. And that's really interesting to see if that's the case in how that reflects politically. I think it plays really detrimentally to Hillary Clinton and does benefit Bernie Sanders. And it might have the same kind of effect on the right for Trump a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to see how.
About Hillary.
Well, and this is why Ron Paul was just two old guys, Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul, just exploding on the scene, and they couldn't be any more ideologically different. But they both spoke their minds, and they both spoke with candor, even though they spoke completely different things.
Well, it's kind of the way that Tea Party and Occupy have a few things in common. The crony capitalism, the kind of cronyism that goes on, the big business supporting itself at the cost of smaller businesses and things like that, and the elimination of competition. Both of those guys have seriously good, solid points on those arguments. You can talk about business and free markets, but when you're talking about cronyism and padding, giving advantages to larger businesses and incentives to larger businesses, it is a means of, reducing the freedom in the market. And both guys have touched on that at length.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. So who do you like this week?
That's a great question. Perry has been making some good noises. He's getting some good press this week. Rand Paul has been almost silent. Ted Cruz is the only one who's not, I guess, beating Donald Trump over the head. This is getting really interesting. And then we've had, Chris Christie jump in, so making some waves. Yes, that was a fat joke.
I decided to restrain myself in laughing, but yes, I gathered it was.
But who's really impressing right now is Carly Fiorina. Carly Fiorina has managed to tackle at the Western Conservative Summit. She gave a great speech there about the issues. She's managed to be able to play really hardball with the media for a long time and show conservatives how to really properly frame issues. And we can't just be thinking about the primary right now. We've also got to figure how are we going to get people to vote for whoever we get in the general, and she's really tapping into that.
Well, I get the impression that there's no way we're going to have just an Anglo male all ticket this year. In 2016 on the Republican side. If we do that, that would be a fate worse than death, is what we're told. I kind of hate that whole conversation. I'd like to have the best people rise to the top, but let's face it, the best people aren't even running.
Yeah. Yeah,
so, hey, we might as well make it politically correct. And so, and she has been surprisingly good. I've been impressed by a lot of what she says and how she frames it. And she makes it sound reasonable, which a lot of guys on our side have a difficult time doing.
Oh, if you get a chance to see what she did, it was a Republican women group in California. She was talking about the case for abortion and people saying, well, the Republican platform is so extreme on abortion. She turned it around. Have you read the Democrat platform? Any abortion at any time for any woman paid for by taxpayer dollars. And in California, they've been trying to say not to be paid, to be performed by non-doctors. Do you agree with that? Nobody agrees with that. And she puts it out there very succinctly and very unemotionally, but very powerfully. It's just beautiful.
It is beautiful. All right, good stuff. And by the way, how do we learn more about what you're doing?
FreeRadicalNetwork.com. One of our writers today has something he's launching on Greece and Trump and gay marriage all at once. So if people want to check that out.
Yeah, just remember this week, Greece is the word.
Yes. Yes.
All right, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, when we come back, more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com, and you're listening to The Price of Business.
Welcome